This is where business ideas and passions turn into profit. Whether you're dreaming of becoming your own boss but don't know how to get started, or have already started a side hustle and wish to grow it exponentially, your host, Victoria Wieck, can help you turn your passion-based business ideas into profit. Welcome to Million Dollar Passion. Here is your host, world-renowned jewelry designer and home shopping TV celebrity, Victoria Wieck.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Million Dollar Passion Podcast. I am so excited to get into this week's session. It's part of the series, a multi-week series, the Do It Now system that I wrote a book about. And the book basically is titled Million Dollar Passion and how you can turn your idea into a multi-million dollar business. And I speak from my heart and from my own experience. And I broke it down to just very few bite-sized information so that you can kind of follow along my journey. So this is week 5. And if you have not listened to week 1 through 4, I highly suggest that you do that now because you really can take your passion into a profitable business. And you can start that business with no experience, no money, no outside capital, and no real connections of any kind. And I can tell you I did it, and I did it in a very big way. So listen to the other 4 weeks. And before I get into this, if you find this information interesting, or you found other, episodes interesting, please go ahead and subscribe and share any of my episodes with at least one friend, so we can amplify and elevate the topic here. So without further ado, let's go get into target market, targeting your audience. And if I can think of one thing other than your product or service itself that is critical that you understand, I mean, I would say it is really understanding who your target market is. So it's really important, and I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. And so that this topic, there are masterminds on this topic, there courses being taught on this topic, but I'm going to try to break it down to about a 20-minute segment so that you can kind of get the basics of it and really understand it. So here it is. Again, I really understanding the target market really has to do with your it's directly related to how successful you're going to be and how fast you can achieve that success. And so let's just get into this. The first thing is try to make it as small of a niche as possible. So there is a saying, I didn't originate this, this saying, I don't know who originally came up with that, but a lot of people would agree with me that the riches are in the niches, okay? Or in French would be niche, or the riches are in the niches. So make sure that you break it down to as small of a niche as possible. Whatever you're doing, try to find the first 200 people that's going to buy your product, not first 20. First 20 is like your friends, your family, people who are obligated to buy something from you. But the first 200 plus 400 is absolutely critical, because you really have to understand who they are, what they're buying currently, what their needs are, and how you can provide solutions to their life, right? So if you have not listened to the first 4 weeks, you're going to see a common theme there in everything I do, which is the only way you make money as an entrepreneur is if you learn how to add value to other people's life, right? People don't pay for information anymore. It's all free on Google. People don't pay for frivolous, things that they don't need. They usually try it and return it. So you really have to learn how to add value to other people's life. And in order for you to do that, you have to understand who they are. There's a saying that if you try to be everything to everybody, you are nothing to no one. But if you try to be everything to just a few people, you can be that. Okay. So, or if you try to be everything within a topic. So, and I'm just going to, enough with the general, I just want to give you an example. For example, I turned my passion for jewelry into a multi-million dollar business. I've done something like 9 figures in this space. Now, I could say that jewelry is for everyone. I could justify that. A lot of entrepreneurs, this is the number one mistake people make, is that they define their target market too big. Okay. So I could say that women love jewelry. People get married. Men love jewelry because they love jewelry for themselves. Some men do. And most men have a mother, sister, a wife, a daughter, female friends, grandmothers. You can think about how you can justify. I can target, maybe I should target the men who actually buy the jewelry for the women in their life. So you can see how I could sit there and say I could design jewelry for all women and most men. So it is everybody, right? Men who are older, younger, they all love jewelry. And this is kind of an heirloom piece. They all love it. But if you were to identify your market as that, and you came up, well, how would you design for that? How would you design for that market? How would your jewelry be different than everything else out there in the market, right? And I'm going to get back to that in a little bit, because this has to do, if you identify your target market correctly, you almost can build a business without any advertising, without any outside influences. And I'll show you how you can do that with my jewelry. So just keep that in mind. Remember also that people still, before they buy anything of significance, whether it's a course or whether it's jewelry they're going to wear to a sorority party, or to a maybe a high school reunion, or maybe for you to get married in, for them to get married in, bridal, they still have to like you, they have to trust you, and they have to know that it's going to be good for them. So they have to like the person. If I come across on TV or on my mailers, like I don't know, I'm not a likable person. I come across as, braggadocious, very loud person who talks about herself all the time. You're probably not going to want to deal with them, for the most intimate purchase, very, very intimately, emotionally connected purchase. So if they like you, okay, they still have to trust you. They have to trust that you're the best jeweler they can find. And they also have to trust that you probably aren't going to screw them over. Okay, so there's a two-factor trust there. They have to trust you as an expert, that you know what you're talking about, that you're actually bringing real value to their life. And then they also have to trust that you're not going to overcharge them. The information you're giving them is actually true, all that. Then they answer, then they ask, is this going to be good for me? So say you're teaching a course. You're teaching like an online course about, let's say, how to do makeup. Okay. Or, maybe that's a bad example. Let's say online course on how to do digital marketing. Okay. And you're charging them $5,000. They have to know, number one, oh my God, is that person likable? I'm going to be Zooming with that person for the next 12 weeks. If you find that that person is really always about talking about himself or herself, you may, and less about the content, you may not really want to, spend the money. But provided that they trust you and all that, they still have to know, is this going to work for me? Okay. Do I have the type of business that can benefit from the type of online course that this person is, teaching? Do I have the infrastructure for that? Do I have, all the other stuff? So they have to, and can I get the same information from a person who's more experienced for less money? Okay, that's when the pricing thing kind of comes in. Pricing only matters after they find out that they really love you, they like you, they fall in love with your story, your journey, that you have some expertise, that they can trust, and that you have their interest at heart. And then it's actually good for me, and it happens to be an amazing price. Okay, so that is the perfect formula for that. Now, I'm gonna, instead of all these generals, I'm gonna actually tell you a little bit about my personal journey, so that my personal journey happens to be in jewelry design, which is a huge market. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide, and it is one of the oldest industries worldwide. And it also happens to be the most competitive industries anywhere in the world. Many of you know, I've traveled extensively around the world. I've been to some countries that most people didn't even know existed. But every country you go to, everywhere from South Africa, Kenya, to, you go to Dubai, all over Europe, to all over Latin America, in any little port to airport, you go to any shopping environment, there is a jewelry store, like every a few blocks. It's almost as many, not as quite as many as Starbucks, but it actually has a lot of jewelry stores all over the world. So it's one of the most competitive businesses. And it's also a business that's known for having the good old boys around the world kind of owned 80 to 90% of their business. So in that environment, I started a small company targeting a very small group of women, okay, very specific women. So remember, I said that in jewelry, I could have identified my market as, all women love jewelry. Okay. I mean, even that's a very generalistic. Most women love jewelry. Most women who get married want to have some sort of a ring that says, hey, I'm married. Your taste may differ, but, that's a piece of jewelry. Um, and if you think about, what the choices women make, it's christening, bar mitzvah, all these, events. You're wearing jewelry, the heirloom pieces are given, that you inherit, you pass down. So you could say my target market is all women, and most of the men who buy for their wives and, their significant other, their friends, their mothers, their sisters, whatnot. So if you do that, if you say my jewelry caters to all women and I'm going to design for all women, and let's say you do that, you somehow can do that, you understand what women want. But what would your, like, if you were going to post on Facebook, if you were going to create a Facebook ad, what would you say? What would that ad say? Hey, I designed beautiful, piece of jewelry, a whole collection for you. I understand that you're a woman and all women love jewelry, and I have a large selection of jewelry, and and it's very inexpensive. I'm 25% lower than your local department store. I'm having a sale here. Come to my store. Okay, that's pretty much about what you could say, because you can't talk to every woman, right? And when you're talking to every woman, it sounds that way. You're not talking to that woman. Okay, so let's say how I did it though is when I was starting my company, I found that, most of the jewelry was sold that way. Most of the jewelry was sold that way by major department stores, major jewelry stores. They talk to every woman. Okay. We have bridal, we have tennis bracelets, we have this, we have that, we have all the things that you all love. Women love jewelry, and we have what women want, and we're the cheapest. Right. So this is how the ads kind of, I mean, the precise language is different than what I just said, but that's genetically what most of the ads said. Some of them had better models, some of them had, different styles, but the messaging was the same. Okay, women love jewelry. I know you love jewelry, and we have high quality jewelry, and our prices are the best. And where the jewelry was routinely sold at 70% off, which also was a lie, by the way. They would actually jack up the price so that they could take the 70% off, which then became the regular price. In fact, I think many of jewelry stores, department stores that actually was sued by the FTC about that. If they say that, every 2 weeks you jack up the price 70%, so you can take the 70% discount, then that discounted price is actually your retail price. So, they've actually had gone through lawsuits and all this. But I digressed on that. So what happened was, when I came to this country, I realized that in South Korea, most of the jewelry was either heirloom pieces, like their 24 karat gold pieces that was given to a child as their future inheritance. So it was more of a monetary value. But the heirloom pieces that you wanted to hand out, hand down to the next generation, they were highly personalized. Okay, they were mostly custom made pieces by a local jeweler for your family. They might even have a family emblem. Some of them might have, their favorite gemstones as opposed to diamonds. If a region was really known for fishing, for example, they might have little fisherman's knots, embedded into, and then if they were like living on a farm, they might have little wheat patterns kind of thing. So when I came to America, I was astonished at the lack of selection. It was mostly sold on snob appeal, mostly sold on, hey, I have a 2-carat diamond from Tiffany's. Or I have a 1-carat diamond from, whatever store. So it has a little bit of snob appeal, but it was just basically a stone set in 4-prong setting and with a bunch of, with a band. That was what it was. So I saw a huge opportunity to speak to different women. So when I say different women, women who had different emotional needs for different reasons why they bought jewelry. So at about in 1989, which is when I started my company, that was the time when many women in America were actually going to work outside the home. And it was the first time in history that most of these women actually who went outside the home to work, and I say that because, taking care of your children is actually a full-time job at home. So they went outside the home to work, and they had titles like, marketing directors or vice president of something or senior manager of something. They had managerial positions for the first time, and they were making decent money. I mean, it was still huge inequities in salaries, but they were still making good money. And they went to work looking like miniature men. Basically, they had, you know, I was one of those women, and I had to, wear like a button-down cotton shirts, and I had a little like a female suit, business suits in, gray, navy, black. Basically, a lot of your, female workers had to, they didn't really have jewelry at that point. It wasn't like a jewelry that they had jewelry, but they were very fancy. They were at nighttime jewelry. They were very fancy. You don't want to go to work looking like you're just a show off, right? And you don't want to. So these women actually had a need. They needed to look like they're polished. They needed to look intelligent, sophisticated, but understated. And at that time on the, in the marketplace, they had junk jewelry, they were plastic, they were brassy, they clinked and they made all the sounds. They had like a tortoise, like animal prints on them. They looked cheap and junky. Okay. Or you could go buy these really expensive jewelry that, that was a snob appeal thing. You actually went to these places to pay the 10, 15, $20,000 once in a lifetime, and you wore it until you died. So I designed jewelry that was much more for daytime to go to work, understated, fun, and beautiful, but just a little sparkle, just a little metal, and also had, little florals or ways that were still timeless, but very classic. Think, florals, little critters like ladybugs, a little accent here and there. So it didn't look like it was wild, but it had interesting, topics that you can talk about. People are curious, other women are complimenting you, and you stood out like somebody who took care of herself, who was successful. So high quality jewelry at lower prices that were emotionally connecting and personality reflective jewelry. So I catered to professional working women who made a ton of money for the first time. Before our generation, that the men went to work and the money was tight, and she didn't really go outside the home, so she didn't really need daytime jewelry. So as you can see, defining my target market to professional working women in a professional environment, and only that woman. So so my Facebook ad in today's terms, or my ads would say something like, hey, you know uh, you know something to the effect that, come and experience sophisticated, understated jewelry that you can wear to work, and you can wear to, semi-formal, to a cocktail party. You can save all this money, and you can stand out for all the right reasons. And you can, when you're, someday in the future, your daughters, your granddaughters can inherit this, because this is very high quality, products, and they're custom designed just for you, just for a few people, because I didn't have a huge distribution. And for, for the next 2 weeks, you could have it at a 25% off discount. So luckily for me, there was nobody doing that, and I ended up with a huge market share. This is how I sold over 10 million pieces of jewelry just in America. So this is the power of really understanding who your target market is, and actually providing products for your target market and messaging them, in a way that you can connect with them emotionally. All your marketing messaging needs to sound like you are speaking to that person alone, right? So I'm just going to go over some examples of how other people might, if I understand that most of you are not going to be in the jewelry space. So for example, if you're a real estate broker, Okay. You can't go and say, I'm a real estate broker. I specialize in Beverly Hills to Compton to Newport Beach to San Diego to wherever. Okay. Nobody's going to believe you. If you, specialize in entry level homes in an area that have a lot of people who are coming into that area for entry level homes, a lot of entry level home market is younger families that cater to that really want great schools, that have great little parks around, that's safe. So you want to kind of, your messaging will be different than if you were selling a 3 million to $10 million property. They're looking for something completely different than entry level homes. So you can't be a specialist at both ends, right? So you want to make sure, or maybe you're in the vacation home market. Maybe you're like in Palm Springs, or, places where older retirees that buy their retirement home or their vacation home. They have very different needs. So again, like, make sure that you understand who you're talking to, because if you're a generalist, it's like if you need LASIK surgery for your eyes, you're not going to go to a general practitioner for your eye surgery. Okay, you're going to go to the best LASIK surgeon who's done nothing but that. I actually went to a LASIK surgeon about 7 years ago, and she had done something like 7,000 LASIK surgeries. Most of them successful. Some of them, they didn't. There was like 1% of the people that ended up with dry eye or something like that. But I chose to go to her for that reason, that she did nothing but that. She does not do cataract surgery. She doesn't do anything else. The woman does nothing but this one thing. If you are a pain management expert, okay, say you help people manage pain, if you specialize in Olympic athletes or professional tennis, professionals, or high school athletes, that they need to be, fixed up at peak performance every day, and they're really healthy otherwise, and they're really watching their body for every single little joint. That's a different market than senior citizens who are in chronic pain, that is on Medicare or Medicaid or, whatever. So it's two different. I'm giving you two very extreme examples of how a generalist can't survive in either of those places, right? If you just say, hey, I'm a pain management specialist, I can, no matter what your pain is, I can help you. And you don't actually explain exactly why you're best, for that person. You're not going to get the high school athletes, because they're going to look for athletic, physios and athletic, professionals. So again, I'm just giving you a very, very extreme, and I'm going to give you the most extreme example. This actually was a real restaurant in Los Angeles. I lived in LA for 40 years, and it's really funny. But across from my office, they had a restaurant, like a fish restaurant that stayed there. It was like 30 years that they were there. So before I was even in that office space, this was like a kind of iconic restaurant. For some reason, this family decided to close up about 10 years ago. And then every 6 months, it seems like there was a new restaurant that came in. And, none of them really made it. And then the last one that I remember was they actually sold what they called global cuisine. And they sold something, their menu actually had El Salvadorian food, Hebrew, like a Hilar food, and sushi, vegan. Okay. So, and the owner was very proud of the fact that his family, he had a very large family, a bunch of his kids, like he had a son who married an Israeli girl that moved to Israel and spoke Hebrew. And he also had one of his daughters marry somebody in Japan. So, they had, he was very proud of the fact that his family's so diverse, and they actually eat these food all the time. So he opened this restaurant called the Global Cuisine. Now, if you just wanted to have some pasta for lunch, would you actually, pizza and pasta for lunch, would you actually go to a global cuisine like this, where, they serve everything under the sun? If you're a sushi connoisseur, would you go to a restaurant that served, the vegan El Salvadorian and halal food? You'd probably go to a sushi restaurant, that has nothing but sushi. So again, if you start to try to, and by the way, this family did not last either. They actually didn't last even 6 months. It was a really tough sell. Okay. Nobody wanted to go in there. They were kind of curious, and it was kind of like a neighborhood joke, but nobody actually ate anything that I know of other than his own family. So it didn't really work out. So remember, getting your target audience nailed down helps you attract new customers at a much faster rate than if you try to broaden it. I know it's very counterintuitive to think that you have to kind of make this, the target market so small as opposed to bigger. But trust me on this one, you really do have to. You do have to make sure that your target market is as small of a niche as possible. Now, once you start to achieve some success, you can then branch out into other things. So, like for example, my target market for the longest time was that professional working women. That they grew older with me. Okay, so I was like in my 20s when I started my business. And I'm not even going to tell you how old I am because I've been in through so many decades where a lot of my customers now are ages 45 to 65, and some of them are even older. Okay. So, but I think that I can really help, millennial women navigate their bridal, things like that. So I created a separate company that deals with just that millennial bridals who want great choices, who want custom made jewelry. So, and that's doing really well. I understand, I figured out, but I don't mix those two. I don't go to my millennial set. My millennial bridal site is called rachelandvictoria.com. So RACHEL and Victoria.com. You should check that out. It's a beautiful site. All the model pictures are actually actual pictures of my daughter, Rachel, who is, kind of partnering with me on this. But we don't say anything about, the messaging is very different. The millennials want choice. They want experience. They want uniqueness. They don't want anything that's mass produced. They really don't want to buy things at a department store. They want things that are made for them and only them, and they're very concerned about the ecology and that what their footprint is in the world in terms of carbon footprint, climate change, and all that. So on that site, we kind of spell out our philosophy. So, we all our metals, our gold and silver that we use is all recycled. We don't do any earth mined gemstones, meaning that anything that we have to dig, deep through the earth, we don't deal with that. All the diamonds are lab grown above earth, and all our packaging is recycled paper and so forth. So again, like they understand, because in the 45 to 65, they understand my philosophy is the same. Okay. But it's not a huge deciding factor. It's a plus factor. They like the fact that I am very conscious about, saving the planet, saving the earth, but it's not the determinant factor for them. So again, your messaging changes based on who your target market is, and your products change, your price point changes, all of that. So, and lastly, once you clearly identify who your target market is, like with this person with this pain point, like who actually is a pain expert, remember, the only way you make money is if you add value to somebody else's life as an entrepreneur consistently. That means, how do you add value to somebody else's life? Does your product help them save money? Does it help them save time? Does it help them, right a social wrong or social wrongs? Does it help them prevent a problem in the future? If you're selling alarms or security systems, or maybe you're selling vitamins, or insurance, does it help people feel significantly better, emotionally? You might be selling, entertainment. You might be selling them a way how you connect with your customers, like if you're business to business. So all these, you gotta kind of answer. If you can answer more than one off the list that I just gave you, and there's a whole other list I can give you. And like I said, I'm trying to keep this very simple and short. But if you can help them save money and time, or if you can help them save money and time and prevent a future disaster from happening, these are great. So you got to check at least one off of this. If you can't, you have to keep working on your target market and on your product and how you can solve their problems or add value to their life. And you'll see a huge difference in how you start your business. You can see why you can start your business with literally no money, no expertise. It's really simple, basic common sense. And so thank you for listening to this week's lesson. I love this topic, and I may revisit this topic at the end of the series because it is such a critical topic. And it's a topic that that's counterintuitive to most entrepreneurs, and a little bit of a getting used to. So thank you for listening again. And until next time, please stay healthy and happy. And remember, happiness is your choice. And also, if you can rate and review this show, I would be ever so grateful. Thank you.
You've been listening to Million Dollar Passion, where we turn dreams into reality and passion into profit. According to ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Congratulations on taking that first step today. For more information on how Victoria can help you turn your business idea into $1 million and to download Victoria's free ebook on passion-based business ideas, visit milliondollarpassion.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player.